Morning. Hey, you're listening to Conservative Cat. I so do appreciate you being here on a Friday. We are going to be digging into a whole lot this morning. First, do want to talk about Governor J.B. Pritzker. He picks this fight with Pete Hegseth, and I think he immediately regrets it. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, he responded accordingly to Pritzker picking a fight with him. So we're going to get to that. Plus, I want to talk about that debate last night. It was pretty mind-blowing. There was an exchange between Abigail Spanberger and the moderator, which is really fascinating to watch because the moderator just kept asking her the same question over and over and over again. And the question, of course, was, are you going to condemn the murder fantasist Jay Jones? We talked about Jay Jones yesterday, or reported about those text messages that were uncovered. And Spanberger, Abigail Spanberger, she's running for Virginia governor, and she didn't answer. She refused to condemn it. So that did not help her, I don't think. And then I want to talk about gas dropping in the state of Illinois. You're probably like, oh, yay, gas. It looks like it's coming down a little bit. Don't celebrate, because I'm sure Governor J.B. Pritzker and his ilk, the Springfield Democrats, they're plotting some way to tax you, and they're going to use this loss of revenue as justification to pile on more taxes. So we're going to get to all of it. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, he's picked a lot of dumb fights recently. So the most recent one that I can think of is picking a fight, obviously, with Donald Trump during his entire second term of office. It feels like JB and Donald Trump have been going at it, and I'm sure he's picking a fight with Donald because he's undoubtedly running for 2028, trying to throw his name in the hat or his hat in the ring for presidential aspirations. He's got presidential aspirations in 2028. Okay, so he's been picking a fight with Donald. There are a lot of bad decisions that Governor J.B. Pritzker has made recently. One of them actually inserting himself. You guys remember the redistricting fight, okay, in Texas, going on in Texas. He inserted himself into this fight over the redistricting, and he tried to portray himself as some beacon of democracy, even though Illinois is one of the most heavily gerrymandered states in the nation, and it is one of the most corrupt states in the nation. We have been ruled by Democrats for decades, and we are known for corruption here in this state, and we've been under J.B. Pritzker's rule for, I don't know, the last, 6 years? I don't know how long he's been in office, something like that. Maybe more. Hold on. I'm going to double check. How long has Pritzker been in office? I am having like crazy sinuses this morning, folks, because the harvest season, I get this way every single year. Yeah, he's been in office since 2019. So yeah, 6 years. And I don't know about you, but this time of year, like, I love this time of year because fall, and I am totally all for pumpkin spice lattes. But my nose also gets super stuffy because all the corn comes down, and then everything like under the sun comes up, and allergies are terrible. So JB, he's made a lot of bad decisions. He's inserted himself into fights that he has no business being in. The redistricting battle, obviously, that was not something he should have inserted himself into, being that Illinois is so gerrymandered. Another one here is proclaiming that Chicago is safe, and then he released that infamous video of him walking around the lake there in Chicago at like 6 a.m. Bright, daylight in the morning in a nice area. And he goes, "Oh, it's a safe place to be." And he did that a day after one of the most violent weekends probably we've seen in Chicago. 37 shootings occurred over Labor Day weekend, and that occurred over a 3-day period. And then there were 58 people shot overall. Okay, and 8 people had died. 8 of those 58 people who were shot, that wound up deadly. So ICE arrested recently several criminal aliens. So in the sanctuary city of Chicago, and I've told you that I think Donald Trump's primary reason for being in these cities, these blue cities, is because they are bastions of illegal immigration, and there could be potentially what I call sleeper cells, where you've got a bunch of foreign nationals who, at a snap of the fingers, will be weaponized against the American populace. I think that is possible. We saw the video footage from a couple of years ago. A bunch of Chinese nationals came over the border. They all had matching backpacks. They were clearly had some sort of military discipline, same kind of haircut. And I'm curious how many of these sleeper cells exist and when they're just, going to be awoken by our foreign adversaries. So I think the primary goal is to break up some of these sleeper cells in these sanctuary cities. And a lot of criminal aliens have already been arrested, according to ICE. They say that they've arrested illegal aliens for heinous crimes, such as sexually assaulting a child. Then they've got rape. They've got armed robbery, domestic battery. And this is all part of what's called Operation Midway Blitz. And these arrests honor Katie Abraham, who was recently killed in a drunk driving hit and run car wreck because there was a criminal alien. His name was Julio Cusul Bol, and he was in Illinois illegally here in the United States, and he killed this girl because he was drinking and driving and fled in a hit and run wreck. So Pritzker, he's decided to pick another fight, though. Okay, so I've kind of caught you up to speed on everything J.B. Pritzker. Really embarrassing. He was posting videos of himself walking around Chicago claiming that it's super safe, but I just told you that, ICE has documented arrests for people who have sexually assaulted children, rape, armed robbery, domestic battery. They're, making these arrests all in honor of this woman who recently lost her life in this hit and run. It was a drinking and driving incident. Now, fast forward to today, Pritzker is picking a fight with Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. And he's alleging, quote, that he ignored his job and he is doing push-ups to set the record while Illinois is being invaded by President Donald Trump's troops. So I'm going to show you JB's tweet, and then I'm going to show you Pete Hegseth's response. Okay. But here is his tweet. So you guys see the documentation there. Smash the like button if you're here this morning. Good morning. So do appreciate you being here. There he is. Pete Hegseth was busy ignoring his job doing push-ups as part of a show for the Guinness Book of World Records while Illinoisans are being invaded by Trump's military troops. Hegseth in turn said this. He said, Pritzker, you should probably do a few push-ups yourself. Okay, before notifying him that the troops are doing the job that he refuses to do. So you can see the response there from Pete Hegseth. Beautiful. Beautiful comeback there. And folks, when we're talking about leadership and being an actual real leader, I think it's obvious which one, Pete Hegseth versus Pritzker, fits that definition, being a real leader in this scenario. I don't even know why. Like Pritzker, like he's got to know, and like his social media team, whoever's running his X account, they've got to know that that's a running joke, right? That JB Pritzker's fat. I mean, it's a social media meme. Okay. So why in the world would they take a stab at Pete Hegseth for doing push-ups? Like, that's just inviting, Maybe that's what their whole game was. They were trying to bait Pete Hegseth into calling him fat. But he did it with a lot of class. He just said, hey, maybe you should do a few push-ups. It wasn't like he came out and said, you're a fatty, He just said, maybe you should do a few push-ups. Maybe they were trying to bait him into saying something, and then they'd be able to or call Pete Hegseth fat phobic or whatever. I don't know. When I look at the tweet Pritzker put out, I was like, who on their social media team put that out there? You're like opening yourself up to being roasted. Okay, for him to get roasted. And he did. So I want to shift gears. We're going to be talking about this race, Virginia governor race, and the attorney general race. So there were some comments that I shared with you yesterday. I pulled up the screenshots of the text messages. We're not lying. This actually happened. The Virginia Democrat candidate for attorney general, Jay Jones, he fantasized about having 3 bullets and using 2 of the bullets in his opponent's head. Okay, so if there was Hitler, I think he said Pol Pot, and Todd Gilbert, who was Speaker of the House, he, in this text message thread, Jay Jones was talking to a colleague about how he'd like to put 2 bullets in his opponent's head and had hoped for the guy's children to die in the arms of their mother. I mean, this is bizarre. Like, Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I've said some pretty wacky things in chats with my friends. Specifically my brother. We text back and forth all the time. Um, we make fun of people in the news like Kamala Harris recently. I think I called her at most a drunk, and Michelle Obama. I mean, we make jokes about how she looks manly, okay, in our text messages, okay? Not once have I ever even thought of texting, a very close family member of mine, right? Anything even remotely close to this. This guy has some really messed up fantasies in his head. And I mean, I've made jokes, like nothing that I wouldn't honestly put out there on social media. I mean, I've said some crass things to friends privately, but not violent, not fantasizing of killing people. I mean, I've made jokes about Michelle being Michael. This is a social media thing where she kind of looks manly or not super feminine, and Kamala Harris, how she stumbles and appears to be drunk and on occasion. Like, that's the most I've ever said. I don't know. This is just outrageous. These text messages. I've never. I don't know. Uh, so even for today's Dems, it's pretty outrageous stuff. Okay. The Democrat Party is very violent. People on the left are very violent. But even for them, this text message thread has gone way too far. And really, it's disqualifying. It should end his candidacy, especially given that there has been a high profile assassination. Somebody on the left shot Charlie Kirk in the neck. Given the political climate nowadays, I mean, this should disqualify him immediately. His candidacy should be over. So the outrage has been pretty widespread over these text messages. But you guessed it, I haven't heard a single Democrat condemn these texts. I haven't seen anybody really say, oh, we don't associate with him. No. The Democrats are simply ignoring it. They're just not commenting on it. And, Thursday night, last night, the Democrat candidate for governor, her name is Abigail Spanberger. She was forced to deal with this issue because she was debating GOP rival, now Lieutenant Governor, Winsome Earl Sears. Okay, Winsome Sears. And they were debating live on TV. Okay, so now I've seen politicians dodge questions. I've seen them talk in circles, confuse people. I've seen them act like robots. I've seen them act like puppets and not even really, they're not there. Joe Biden, right? I've seen politicians give terrible performances and answers, replies to questions. I've seen it all. But Spanberger here, I will go out there and say this. I think that this is the most horrific performance I've ever seen a politician give. Her answers were so bad. She sounded like, I don't know, like Google or like just canned responses. She was not authentic in any kind of way. And the moderator here, she kept repeating and giving this woman chance after chance after chance to condemn Jay Jones' indecency, his indecent rhetoric. I mean, I'm putting that lightly. It wasn't even just indecent. It was vicious, violent rhetoric. The moderator gave her multiple chances to condemn Jay Jones and his rhetoric and let voters know whether or not she endorses him or still endorses him. And she just kept sputtering over and over again. And she just kept saying, oh, it's the voters' decision. I mean, truly mind-blowing stuff here. Like I said, probably the worst performance I've ever seen a politician give. And I've seen Joe Biden participate in a debate with Donald J. Trump. Okay, this is pretty bad stuff. Take a listen.
Thank you, Ms. Spanberger. I didn't hear an answer there on the endorsement issue, so I want to just make sure. Will you continue to endorse Jay Jones to be the next Attorney General of Virginia? And were you aware of these text messages before they released? You have 30 seconds.
In fact, it appears that it was those who released the text messages and held them for years. So the public was unaware who had knowledge of these text messages for many years.
What did you do about it?
I learned of these text messages the day that they came out, and I denounced them as soon as I learned of them.
She denounces murder.
And importantly, at this point, as we move forward, the voters now have this information that was withheld for them,
You're running to
presumably for
Ms. Earl
political
Sayers,
reasons. But the voters now have the information, and it is up to voters to make an individual choice based on this information.
Ms. Spanberger, I understand what you're saying about the voters, but for you yourself, do you still continue to endorse Jay Jones? 15 seconds, yes or no?
We are all running our individual races. I believe my opponent has said that about her lieutenant governor nominee.
Ms. Earl Sayers,
And it's up to every person to make their own decision. I am running my race to serve Virginia, and that is what I intend to do.
Thank you, Ms. Spanberger. We just want to clarify, what you're saying is that as of now, you still endorse Jay Jones as Attorney General.
I'm saying as of now, it's up to every voter to make their own individual decision. I am running for governor. I am accountable for the words that I say, for the acts that I take, for the policies that I have put out.
Thank you.
I am responsible for the policies I put out and the work I will endeavor to do tirelessly for the people of Virginia.
Thank you, Ms. Spanberger.
Wow. Have you guys ever noticed Democrat women never wear skirts? I don't know. I this is just something that is coming to me after watching this again. I realized, I'm like, why is it that Democrat women never really wear skirts? Have you got an answer? Throw it in the comment section. I mean, Kamala Harris, I've never seen her wear a skirt ever. Google image it. I mean, I think maybe once, if that. Hillary Clinton, Elizabeth Warren, they're all about the pantsuit. I don't know what that is. I mean, Winston Sears, she looks fantastic. I'm sorry, but the wardrobe choice, just a female commenting here for Spanberger, not great. Not a great wardrobe choice. Okay, so despite repeatedly being asked by both the moderator and Earl Sears, Winston Sears, whether she would continue to support Jones because she has endorsed him and she hasn't formally withdrawn that endorsement. Endorsement is sort of a big deal because this is a public declaration and you have to withdraw endorsements. Okay. You issue them and then you withdraw them. They're a serious deal. They shouldn't be. I mean, this is not anything that should be taken lightly. When you endorse someone, that's serious stuff. And I mean, here she is. She's babbling like a broken robot. The moderator asked her, I just didn't hear an answer. This is what the moderator said. They're on the endorsement issue. Because, I mean, the moderator, rightfully so, she knows that an endorsement is a public declaration, sort of a serious thing in politics, and you have to withdraw those things if you no longer support the candidate. And she goes, so I wanted to make sure, will you continue to endorse Jay Jones to be the next Attorney General of Virginia? And were you aware of these text messages before they were released? You have 30 seconds. And then she talked in circles about the text messages, and I mean, she refused to answer a very simple question. Do you endorse the guy? Did you know about the text messages? Instead, she went on some, perfectly irrelevant commentary on Jones' texts and how they were made available to the public. Nobody really gives a damn about how the texts were made available to the public, who released them, why. I mean, nobody cares. That's not really the story. So, the moderator was like, come on, lady. Like, I could see it in the moderator's face. And again, the moderator says, quote, I understand that you're saying that this is about the voters and that they can choose for themselves, but for yourself, do you endorse Jay Jones? Again, Spanberger would not take a stand, and she just kept repeating variations of this line. Well, it's up to the voters to make individual choices based on information. Based on information, we're talking about a guy who, over text message, revealed to a colleague of his that he fantasized killing a political rival of his and his children and having him watch his children die in front of him. I mean, this is beyond information. This is a scandal. This is a guy who's fantasizing killing a Republican. Given the current political climate, you've got to be very clear and condemn this guy. And she doesn't even have the stones to admit what we all know. Like, and here's the bottom line, folks. We all know what's going on here. We all know that she still endorses him. And she doesn't even have the cojones to admit that. And that's what really bothers me. In another clip, Earl Sears, she presses Spanberger hard on this question. And instead of answering it, the Democrat here, she just stares off into space. It's kind of hilarious to watch. I'm going to share this with you. You guys are going to get a kick out of this. Did you guys watch the debate last night? I didn't watch all of it. I got tired, and I mean, my allergies have been bothering me. And what'd you guys think? Who won? Okay, take a look.
I don't understand why you just can't come forward and say he needs to go. I mean, we're talking about murder. We're talking about someone's life being taken from them. Have you nothing to say about that? Are you not going to address it? Really, you can't go any further. You're a governor. You're supposed to stand up for all the people. Are you saying political murder is all right? I don't understand why you just can't.
She's so good. I love Winsome Sears. She's really good. Yeah, I don't know. Who won? Okay, just based on the couple of clips that I've showed you so far this morning, who won the debate? And this is fascinating because I'm starting to see this more and more at the Democrat Party, and especially after Charlie Kirk's assassination, I'm starting to realize that these people on the left, that they are very, very hateful and that they will justify violence always. And, you know, I talked a lot about Katie Porter yesterday. If you missed the show, it's archived. You can also get the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anytime. And I talked a lot about Katie Porter, and, you know, she's got these big aspirations to become the Democrat governor there in California. And she's gone through this hit, I mean, a political hit. And really, I do think that one's political, where, I mean, it's all like somebody released these. I mean, these text messages were from, I think, 2021 Jay Jones text messages, and they were waiting for the perfect time to release them. I mean, that's politics, right? And Politico released these because I think that Alex Padilla is going to be getting into the California gubernatorial race. But set all that aside, and this was a video of Katie Porter, also, I think in 2021, or okay, I think the texts are from 2022. This was from 2021. Sorry, guys. They were in the past. So Katie Porter, she's on video screaming, get out of my effing shot. And I mean, that shows her to be an entitled bully, borderline violent. Okay. When you use language like that, in that context, it's sort of violent. Okay. And, you know, I wonder if these clips of Spanberger here, Abigail Spanberger in Virginia, if this is going to make it to where she can't come back. Okay. So she isn't showing that she has any sort of spine whatsoever here in these clips. And I think that this is over for her, much like Katy Perry's recent or Katy Perry. Sorry, guys, Katie Porter's, not Katy Perry. She's not running for California governor, although I wouldn't doubt it. Right? Hollywood actors. Arnold Schwarzenegger, didn't he run? Yeah, so Katie Porter, I am convinced that those videos that were recently released by Politico, for whatever the reason, I think that there was an ulterior motive to releasing them now. Whatever the reason, they're going to destroy her campaign. She's done. Okay. And like I said, that was the worst political performance I've ever seen. Katie Spanberger. All right, America, you're tuned in to Conservative Cat. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to visit patriotpumpenergy.com. Grab your bottle of premium pre-workout today. Use promo code ConservativeCat at the checkout line for $10 off. You guys can always support the program. Throw it in the chat. Super chats. I like doing these on Fridays. Taking a lot of your chats. We'll do that at the top of the hour. But first, I want to get to today's segment. Today's segment is brought to you by Common Sense. You know, remember that? Common sense is not something that Springfield has got. Okay, they have run out of common sense in Springfield, and they ran out of it a long, long time ago. Probably back in 2019. This is when common sense was nowhere to be found. When Springfield decided to double the gas tax. Okay, their common sense has gone out the window. It's nowhere to be found. And we are talking about the Illinois gas game. Okay, prices at the pump, they are starting to fall a little bit. But don't you dare think for a second that means that you're going to get a break. Okay, because they are going to figure out a way to tax you into oblivion. They're going to figure out a way to where you won't benefit from prices falling. Okay, gas prices are falling. Promise Donald Trump made on the campaign trail. Grocery prices are going down. I promise Donald Trump, all still really high, but they've gone down slightly. But you are not going to feel any kind of relief, not in this state, because you are under the watchful eye of Governor J.B. Pritzker. Governor J.B. tax them till they move Pritzker. Okay, so let's get into it. Gas Buddy reports that there are some stations in Illinois where the prices are at like $3 a gallon, $2.99. And Illinois drivers, they're finally looking up from their steering wheels and they're saying, wait a second, hey, did I cross into Indiana by mistake? This looks like a great price, $2.99. That's not too bad. Before we celebrate, though, this rare blessing, we have to point out, and I want to point out, that when prices fall, gas prices fall, you're going to start hearing local governments, the state government, they're going to start sweating over this dip in revenue. Okay, poor Springfield. Oh no. I might have to drink Folgers instead of Starbucks this year. Oh my gosh. My per diem is only going to be $100, not $200. That's actually true. I think it's like $150 something where they get like per day when they're in legislative session. Insanity. Because they're some of the highest paid legislators in the state or in the nation. Anyway, so poor Springfield, poor local government who finds a way to tax you on everything. They're going to say, oh, our revenues are going to be dipping because the gas prices are falling, so they're collecting less in revenue, okay? But let's be honest here. It's never about what helps the people. They don't want to help the people. It's about what feeds the machine, okay? They're going to claim that the dips in revenue, oh, we can't build our roads, or oh, we can't build out the sewers and the basic infrastructure that we should have done a long time ago. But we're going to say that we need more revenue to fix the hard infrastructure, but we're never going to hit the fund the hard infrastructure. We're never actually going to do public safety, hard infrastructure, what government's supposed to do. We're just going to feed the machine. And we're going to waste a bunch of money paying bureaucrats to conduct random ass studies that nobody really gives a damn about. Okay. So that is what's going to wind up happening. They're going to figure out a way to tax you even more because they're losing this little bit of revenue, being that prices are dropping. I'm sure that's what's going to wind up happening. Illinois is a tax laboratory. I'm convinced that your legislators and Governor J.B. Pritzker, they go to bed at night, and JB, he dreams of abortion. And when he's not dreaming of abortion, he's dreaming up new ways to tax you. So every time something costs less, or, there's not a lot of spending going on, they try to brainstorm how to tax you differently because they're not collecting a ton of revenue, especially considering the out-migration, the mass exodus here in the state of Illinois. There's less drivers on the road, people who are buying less gas, less sales tax. I mean, okay, so when gas goes down, that is insert the conversation for things like a mileage tax. And hell, honestly, if bread gets cheaper, they're going to be like the grocery tax, right? They're going to be like, wait a second. Okay, so we have a grocery tax already, but the bread is cheaper and we're not collecting as much on the grocery tax. So what do we have to do now? They're probably going to come up with like a yeast admissions surcharge or something. Like if you buy bread, that's not really good for the environment because, the yeast process, the fermenting process, we're going to have to charge you an emissions tax. Like that is what they will dream up of. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. Right? So like this is what they're thinking of. They haven't passed the yeast admissions surcharge yet, but just you wait. So Dylan Shirky from the Illinois Policy Institute, he's quoted in the Center Square. He says, Illinois' gas tax doubled in 2019, and every July 1st, it automatically goes up again. Automatically, like clockwork. You don't get a say. There's no debate. There's no vote. That's just your annual reminder every single July 1st that your government hates you, okay, and it likes to milk you like you're a dairy cow. Okay, so Illinois, fun fact, has $3 billion in reserves sitting there in their road fund. Okay, now I'd have to dig into this, but I don't know why. We have a rainy day fund as well, and we're in close to $150 billion in pension debt, but yet we've got money in a rainy day fund. That's kind of like a credit card. Okay, you've racked up a bunch of credit card debt in your own personal finances, and then you put a bunch of money in your savings, but you don't pay off the credit card debt. Okay, it's kind of ridiculous. The only reason why he's doing that is because if you have a rainy day fund, it can boost those credit ratings. So you know how Governor J.B. Pritzker will come out and say like, oh, our credit rating has gone up. Really, it's gone up from like, an F- to an F+, okay, or a D- to a D+. Like it hasn't even really improved all that much, but they do shady crap like this where they have $3 billion in road fund reserves, or they've got money in a rainy day fund, and it makes them look like they're and the credit rating is based off of that stuff, right? But that's not a true indication of the financial state of Illinois. It's not accurate. It's not those credit ratings are based off of things like having your rainy day fund. But like if we're in $150 billion in pension debt and you got like a small little rainy day fund, like clearly that's not encompassing of our financial situation if, our credit rating is good. So wanted to explain that. $3 billion just sitting there in the road fund. And the politicians, they will continue to tax you like we're broke. Okay. And it doesn't matter that they have $3 billion in the rainy. They're never going to do away with the automatic increases. They're never going to go back to the taxes prior to 2019, where they doubled it in 2019. they're never going to go back. Dan Brady, by the way, voted to double the gas tax. I like pointing that out. Dan Brady is a Bloomington mayor now, ran for Secretary of State. But he, along with other Republicans, I think it was like close to 20 Republicans voted for that to double the gas tax. But Dylan Sharkey said it very clearly. The state regularly brings in more than it spends in terms of the road fund. So they don't spend a whole lot of money in the road fund. Like I said, I think it's for their credit rating. They want their credit rating to be high. So Governor J.B. Pritzker can go out there and say, oh, look at our credit rating. And they can even borrow against it. Okay, if they claim that they have surpluses, but really they don't have surpluses, right? It's all fake. It's a fake surplus. And they're doing political math. Okay, so the state regularly brings in more than it spends in terms of the road fund. There's no crisis as far as the road fund goes. You would think so, considering they doubled their gas tax and they don't go and debate the automatic increases annually. Those just happen. You would think that we're in some sort of financial crisis given the taxation. So how do they justify the automatic taxes, the doubling the gas tax? How do they justify all of these taxes despite having the reserves? Okay, because that makes no sense. You got $3 billion in reserves. You're not spending it. And really you're doing political math with it to try to increase your credit rating, I'm pretty sure. So how do you justify the increases all the time? Easy. They invent one. Okay, so you see Illinois politics, this is how it goes. They've got this fake surplus and, that's money that they haven't spent yet, but it's like, oh, this is money we haven't spent yet, but give us a minute. And then they invent some sort of crisis, and then that's what justifies the taxation. So you better believe that this $3 million is not in reserves, is not going to repair your roads. Dylan Sharkey had explained that the road fund cash can be used for roads, infrastructure like that, bridges, or transportation, okay, expenses. So that also extends to the Chicago Transit Authority. Okay, so what I mean by inventing a crisis, so if you guys haven't caught up with the show or you're not aware of the Chicago Transit Authority issue, they are, facing a budget shortfall of near, I don't know, I think it's like $700 million or something like that. Fiscal cliff. I want to make sure that I get you the right number here. I'll have to find it a little bit later. If you guys know it, throw it in the comment section. I'm pretty sure that it's like 700 million or something. But it might have even gone down, but they're not in a good financial situation. So that is the Chicago Transit Authority. Now, they could use some of those millions, okay, and throw that towards the CTA issue, okay, the Transit Authority, and bail them out. I wouldn't want to see that happen. I actually want the road fund to go towards things people actually use, which are roads. Right. But they fabricate, really, a crisis, which is the CTA fiscal cliff and a budget shortfall. They fabricate it, and then they say, well, we need more money for this fabricated shortfall, and that's going to justify the taxation. They were talking about a pizza delivery tax, right? Or a delivery tax where they could charge you $1.50 for anything that comes to your door, in order to address the CTA and their fiscal cliff. But folks, I just told you the road fund could be used to address the CTA and to bail out the CTA. Not that I want that to happen, but it could be, theoretically. Okay, in theory, they could use that. But they aren't going to, of course, act logically. They're going to fabricate a crisis, and then they're going to use this fabricated crisis to justify taxation. You see what Illinois politics is all about. There's a surplus there, but that's just money we haven't spent yet. We're not going to spend it on things that we need, like our debt and like fiscal cliffs and budget shortfalls, to save the Chicago Transit Authority. We're not going to do it. We're not going to spend that money on that. No, we're going to let it sit there. And then we're going to fabricate a crisis. And then we're going to use that fabricated crisis to justify taxation. Okay, so this is how they do it, or they will spend the $3 million on bureaucratic salaries to run some sort of study, and then hire a bunch of people in the Illinois Department of Transportation to conduct said study, a bunch of their friends. Okay, because these people are losers. They never grew up. They wanted to stay in college, and they didn't want to join the private sector. So what they do now is get all of their friends to join their little club in the public sector, and they use your money to pay themselves. It's kind of like Revenge of the Nerds. I've talked about that before, where everybody in the public sector, I am convinced it is just Revenge of the Nerds. They hated you in high school. They hated that you were a successful football player. You were a pretty cheerleader. And now they're getting their revenge on all the hardworking beauticians, all the hardworking men, the construction guys, residential construction. They're getting their revenge by taxing you into oblivion. These blue collar workers are taxing you. Your average American family, Illinois family, they're taxing you into oblivion because they're pissed. And it's Revenge of the Nerds. And then they get all of their friends' jobs through these various state agencies. Anyway, so this could also bring about this drop in gas prices. Another tax scheme. Okay. Another absurd tax, because like they're going to say, though, the revenue's dropping and we need to restore that revenue somehow. And I could foresee them saying that, hey, we need to implement a mileage tax. Now, lawmakers have been talking about the mileage tax for quite some time because of the rise of electric vehicles. That's their excuse for the mileage tax. They're claiming that EV drivers are not paying their fair share into the road fund to keep up the road fund. So that's just not true, because EV owners, they actually pay a higher registration fee. And plus, I think they pay an electric vehicle tax when they actually buy their electric vehicle. So it's just pure fiction. Electric vehicle drivers do, in fact, pay their fair share. Okay, so there's no need for a mileage tax. But you better keep your eyes open, because with this revenue is going to be dipping a little bit because prices are going to be falling. Why? Because Donald Trump is drill, baby, drill. Prices are falling because he promised that. The grocery tax, groceries are coming down a little bit, still kind of high, but they're coming down a little bit. He's following through on his promises, Donald Trump, and they're going to see a decrease in revenue. Not to mention the federal government is drying up their funds to the state of Illinois. So they're going to be dreaming up ways to tax you. They've got to figure out ways to tax you because their revenues, they're very, very greedy. Like I said, they've got a rainy day fund. They've got the surplus in the road fund. They're going to be dreaming up ways of taxing you. And I think that they're going to wind up passing this eventually, this mileage tax. And this might be the perfect storm to do it, because they're losing, that revenue in the gas prices, with the gas prices falling. So this is how Illinois operates, anything innovative, technology, instead of celebrating that progress, and they want you in the electric vehicle. They tell you that all the time because it's clean energy, which is really not, because children over in, Guam or wherever, Lithuania, wherever they're at, they're mining these cobalt and they're mining these precious materials, and it's not really clean energy, these electric vehicles. But anyway, they want you in it, the electric vehicle, and instead of celebrating that they got their way, and they got you in the electric vehicle, immediately the politicians ask, how can we tax this? Okay. So the mileage tax, it is not just talk. I think that it's coming down sooner than you would think. It's been on the table for a couple of years now, but they're going to be tracking your driving. I guarantee it. And if not this year, a couple of years from now, they're going to be tracking your driving. They're going to calculate how much you drive. And based on that, you have to be charged per mile. Okay. And think about that. That is government surveillance, meets highway robbery. They're just stealing from you. And yeah, I'd imagine that they're going to be talking about this sooner rather than later, especially if these gas prices continue to fall. Friends, Illinois could solve its revenue problem overnight. Okay, they really could if they wanted to. If they've got a revenue problem, which I don't think they really have a revenue problem, they've got a spending problem, but they could fix it overnight. Get the people to stop fleeing. Stop with the overregulation. Stop with the overtaxation. The people will stay. They'll spend more. Okay, fewer drivers means fewer gas purchases, which means less revenue. Fewer car registrations, fewer sales tax collection. People are leaving. There is an out-migration problem here in the state of Illinois because they are sick of being punished for staying. Okay, they are taxing you out of the state. So it's like this, you've got to cut taxes in order to make money. Okay, because we're facing an out-migration. It's really not rocket science. And you can't keep taxing your citizenry into oblivion and then cry foul when they pack up and, run to Tennessee, Texas, Florida, whatever, a red state. You can't tax your way into prosperity. You can only cut, the only solution from here is to cut taxes, get people to stay, then they'll spend more, then you've got more revenue, then you can start to chip away at this, elephant in the room, which is our pension debt. Okay, so you can't tax your way to prosperity any more than you can diet your way through a buffet. So Illinois is in a death spiral of its own making, and it's not caused by the price of gas. They're going to try to say that, we're in some sort of crisis because the prices of gas are falling, the grocery prices are falling, so we're not collecting enough. We're in some sort of crisis, or they'll fabricate a crisis similar to what they did with the CTA, and then they'll use that said crisis as justification for taxing you more. They are in a death spiral of their own making. It is not caused by the price of gas falling or the price of groceries falling, or the CTA being in a budget pitfall or a budget shortfall. This is simply caused by government being too big and being too greedy. These public sector losers are too greedy, and they don't want to make anything of themselves in the private sector, and they're honestly pissed at you. They don't like you, and they want revenge on you in the private sector. Okay, so the CTA, I brought that up a little bit. They are in this budget shortfall. Again, a fabricated crisis, because let's be real, nobody really rides the CTA. It's too dangerous, and public transportation is almost as pointless as public libraries at this point. Okay, but they're in this budget shortfall really because they've overspent themselves, and it's really their fault. And they are getting their federal COVID relief dollars. Those are drying up now, and they're running out. And they created all these programs, I'm sure, and hired a bunch of people that they couldn't afford with these COVID dollars that were set to run out because it was relief. It was always temporary funding. So it's that's why I say it's a fabricated shortfall. They just ballooned it with funds that were temporary, and now they're screaming about those funds going away. So the gravy train from Washington dried up, and then suddenly, apparently the trains can't run without the gravy train from Washington. The trains aren't going to be able to run in Chicago without it. So, this is kind of funny because all the studies show us that as gas prices fall, which they are, I said in Illinois, somebody actually just threw it in the comment section that, yeah, I got gas. I filled up for $2.99 last Saturday. Awesome. The gas prices, as they go down, fewer people actually ride the train. All the studies show this. Why? Because they want to ride in cars. Okay. And if it's affordable to drive a car, people are going to opt into that choice. Most people just do Uber. It's a little safer than riding the train or participating in the CT or doing CTA. It's, more efficient. So ride share is a big thing. And like I said, public transit is kind of like gay. Okay. Like people don't use it as much as the bureaucrats will tell you they do. Okay. So they, I bet, will turn around and say like, oh, we could use the road funds and we're going to have to increase taxes we're going to use these road funds, but we're going to have to increase taxes in order to replenish our road fund, right? And that's where your taxes go up, and perhaps they double the gas tax again. What's to stop them? They did it in 2019. They'll do it again. So don't hold your breath. I'm telling you, the state is going to punish drivers for gas prices going down in some way, shape, or form, whether that's through a mileage tax, doubling the gas tax again, creating a brand new tax. They're going to punish you somehow. And, they might just use this road fund for the CTA. They could use it. And that would be really tragic. I hope they don't, because honestly, CTA, shove them over in a corner and let them deal with their own problems, because it's a completely fabricated budget shortfall anyway. It's kind of their own fault. And public transit, I've already established it, it's a little gay. So they'll tell you that they need more money, even though they've got the $3 billion to address that budget shortfall. They'll take that, they'll put it towards the budget shortfall for CTA, but then they'll say, oh, we need to replenish that, although that's reserves, and that's really not how money works. So they're going to say, well, we need to fully fund our road fund. It is fully funded. That $3 million is like in reserves. So you use the reserves, and then you still have they'll say, no, we need to replenish that. And that's why we have to increase taxes or institute something like a mileage tax. So moral of the story, I want to take a step back, look at a bigger picture here, because this isn't just about gas prices. And on its surface, it might sound like that. But this is really about government philosophy and the way they view you dirty peasant. Okay. In Illinois, the moral framework is really upside down. They see prosperity as a problem to be fixed. Okay. So anytime you are independent, you're prosperous, you're, having the gas prices fall, you're filling up for $2.99 at Hy-Vee, they see that as a problem to be fixed. They don't want you to be prosperous. And really, I think it's because this is revenge of the nerds, and they couldn't make it in the private sector, and they're taking it out on you because they're bitter people. But they see independence, prosperity, and success as an act of rebellion. They really do. They see you thriving, and then they start to panic, because that means that you don't need them. And that's what, this show is all about. It's about Christian truth and liberty. Okay, liberty, the idea that man was created to be free and not managed. They want to manage you, and truly, I think they're just bitter people, and they're mad at you because you're successful. And they want your money to be their money. They want your car. They want your fuel. They want your family. It all belongs to them. And really, that's not true. It belongs to God, not Governor J.B. Pritzker. Okay, so Scripture tells us in Proverbs 29:2, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. Illinois has been mourning for a long time. Families burdened, businesses struggling, citizens treated like they're walking wallets for these people in the public sector, and they're wicked people. And It's time we reclaim leadership in this state. I want to elect people who fear God, and they fear God more than losing elections. So Darren Bailey, and I've told you guys this before, I'm going to vote for him. Why? Because this is a guy who fears God more than losing an election. He's doing what God told him to do. He didn't have to, right? He's got a comfy little life on a farm. He's got a ton of grandkids, and, you know, he could just stay on the farm and live out his life and be happy. But he's called to do something, and then he does it. And that's a guy who fears God more than man and more than losing an election. And, you know, we are going to keep circling this drain until we start reclaiming moral leadership. We need moral people in there who fear God above all else. So, breaking news from Springfield. Good morning. Breaking news. Governor J.B. Pritzker, he's just announced a bold new initiative. Illinois Pump Prosperity Act. Okay, this is their new initiative. Drivers are now going to pay an extra 10 cents per gallon, not for roads, but for emotional repair. Okay, because the governor believes that the trauma of the low prices, the fluctuation of the gas prices needs to be addressed through this new office of fiscal healing. Okay, the people are just so traumatized by the gas prices going up and down, and they need, you know, this office of fiscal healing to seek counseling. They're going to hire a bunch of people in this office of fiscal healing, but in order to pay for that office, we've got to charge you 10 extra cents at the pump. Under the new plan, Illinoisans will get a sticker at every pump reading that this price was brought to you by government compassion. And if that doesn't fix the roads, don't worry. We're going to raise the tax again next year. We'll charge you another 10 cents. That's how this goes. I know that sounds satirical. I know that I'm mocking them, but like, am I really that far off? You know, emotional repair. We need to, you know, really provide some emotional comfort to the citizens of Illinois because they're dealing with fiscal problems at the pump. But in order to open up this office, what we're going to have to do is charge them another 10 cents at the pump in order to pay for this office. And, you know, they'll get a sticker, you know, at the pump, and it'll say like this price was brought to you by government compassion because we care so much about Illinoisans. So yeah, I sometimes fear that the Democrats are listening to the show and that they actually would come up with something like the Illinois Pump Prosperity Act or the Office of Fiscal Healing. And like, I don't want to give them ideas because remember, there's two things that Governor J.B. Pritzker and the Dems dream about, the Dems in Illinois dream about when they put their head on the pillow at night. That's abortion and how to tax you more. Okay, so we have to talk about real solutions, not these bureaucratic band-aids. First, we have to repeal this automatic gas tax. That's just absolutely ridiculous. Taxes shouldn't rise without a public vote or debate. You know, that's actually tyranny on autopilot, and they accuse you of being a fascist. This is the most fascist thing that they could have done, was institute an automatic gas tax. That's taxation without representation. Second, we have to cut waste before creating new taxes. Okay, Illinois doesn't have a revenue problem. They have a spending addiction, and they've got to get that under control. Third, we've got to prioritize roads, not these CTA bailouts, things that people actually want to drive on and utilize. The road fund really should be for drivers, not bureaucrats in Chicago hoping to patch their fiscal black hole that they got themselves into by creating new programs and hiring new people with COVID relief money that was temporary always. Okay, so we need to prioritize roads with the road fund and use the road fund and the surplus in the road fund and use that to, do your damn job and fix the hard infrastructure, right? I'm tired of dealing with the orange cones. So my closing thoughts, at the end of the day, folks, falling gas prices should be good news. But here in the state of Illinois, every blessing gets turned into a bill because government here in Illinois, they're not here to serve you. No. It's designed to milk you, and they are designed to survive themselves. They have really pitted us against each other, and they have taken revenge out on the private sector, the people in the public sector. So you see it in taxes, mandates, the endless crises that seem to justify all of the spending that they're doing, the fabricated crises that seem to justify more control, more spending, and more excuses. So the truth is, liberty costs less. Just let people be free. Okay. Always has, always will. It'll cost less. And it'll actually be better for the state of Illinois. You know, you give them the freedoms, you cut the red tape, you cut regulation, you get people to stay here in the state of Illinois. Guess what? They're spending more money, generating more revenue for the state. Everybody wins. It's a win-win when you're not such jackwagon. Okay. So us as Christians, we're reminded that stewardship, both of our money and of our nation, it's sacred. And when we stop demanding accountability, we invite tyranny. So the next time you fill up at $2.99 a gallon, say a prayer of thanks, folks, because it might not be there in next year. They might just slap you with the tax because, God forbid, you have any sort of relief or prosperity in your life. So they're going to turn this price drop into a profit. They're going to figure it out. I want to switch gears. I want to go back to the gubernatorial debate between Governor Winsome Sears, Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears. The governor there currently is Glenn Youngkin in Virginia. She's the Republican running against her Democratic opponent, Abigail Spanberger, and she was a former Congresswoman, Abigail Spanberger. So we're going to chat about that. I'm just going to go right into it, if that's all right by you. So this, I already covered the Jay Jones thing. If you guys missed it, you can rewind, go back. We talked about Jay Jones and the texting scandal, and she was repeatedly asked and pressed whether she still endorsed the Democrat Attorney General candidate Jay Jones after these revelations. They're 2022 text messages between he and former GOP House of Delegates colleague, okay, in which these text messages show Jones fantasized about killing the then Speaker of the House, Todd Gilbert, with 2 bullets to the head. Okay, so he said, if I had 3 bullets and there was Hitler, Pol Pot, and Todd Gilbert, I'd use 2 bullets on Todd. Okay, that's what he said in these text messages. And then he said something about Gilbert's children dying in Jennifer's arm. That's Jennifer is his wife, Todd Gilbert's wife. So really terrible, terrible for Democrats. Really nasty. And Spanberger, she never addressed the question directly, although she was asked numerous times and given numerous chances to condemn what Jones's text messages said and to not endorse him and to call for him to get out of the race. That's what should have happened. That's what Spanberger should have done. But like I said, the left is violent, period. They're very violent people. That's why she didn't condemn this, is because she probably has similar text messages out there. I don't know. Or didn't think that they were that bad, because I'm sorry, you don't condemn this and you don't call for this guy to drop out of the race. I'm going to start speculating here. I'm going to start assuming that you think that these are fine. I'm going to start assuming that you do it yourself. You'd say these text messages yourself. She just kept proclaiming over and over, well, it's up to the voters. We're all running our individual races and it's up to every person to make their decision. Oh, how sweet. But there was a different moment in the debate that I want to get to. I've covered this now. The Jay Jones issue that was brought up in the debate. Now I want to get to Spanberger fumbling on this question about boys being in girls' locker rooms. Okay, so let me actually pull this up for you. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends, and subscribe to the channel, folks. I really need some more subscribers. If you could subscribe, that'd be great. Tell your friends to subscribe. We're almost 2,000. I love you guys so much for subscribing. This is a brand new podcast launched this year, I think in June, and we're almost 2,000. I mean, this is so exciting. And I just love you guys. I love you guys so much. I end the show like that every single time, but I love you guys. So there was another moment in the debate. Spanberger, she was asked on where she stood as far as boys being in girls' locker rooms and bathrooms, etc. And this was a question she also deliberately sidestepped. She on the debate stage, but she also she's been sidestepping this on the campaign trail. And Virginia is kind of like ground zero for this issue. Remember, in Virginia, this is kind of, I believe, how Glenn Youngkin had such an incredible victory. It's because this is a ground zero. This was the place for this issue because there was this tragedy where a girl was raped by a boy in Virginia, a transgender boy, a boy claiming to be a female, and he was in the bathroom, and the father went to the school board meeting and confronted school board members about the incident. Truly tragic, but this is sort of ground zero for this issue, Virginia. And Spanberger fumbled. She dodged it, and she gave a canned response that did not do her any favors. She says, quote, my answer is that each local community decision should be made between parents and educators and teachers in the community, Spanberger said, pointing to her background in law enforcement and her role as a mother. Nothing is more important to me than the safety of all our children. Spanberger declined to say whether she would rescind the measure signed by Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin that requires students to go into restrooms of their birth gender, of their gender assigned at birth. And, well, I'll just play the clip. I think you guys will get a kick out of this moment in the debate. And then we'll get to Winsome Earl Sears. She's the lieutenant governor for Glenn Youngkin. She, took the opportunity after this to go after her. And I mean, it was beautiful. Winsome Sears is just a fantastic candidate. There's some candidates where you're just like, oh man, like you're just not a good candidate. Okay. Like you could be a great person. You're just not good on the debate stage. You're just not good at being quick on your feet. The Winsome Sears, she's a fantastic candidate. So let's take a look at this. Here we go.
Again, the question was, should transgender girls who are biological males be allowed to use girls' bathrooms and play on girls' sports teams in K through 12? You have 15 seconds to clarify.
In cases across Virginia, I think it's incumbent upon parents and educators and administrators in each local community to make decisions locally.
That's what this is about.
Ms. Earl Sears?
There should never be nude men in locker
Oh my
rooms.
goodness, we finally have her saying that, but you voted for that.
Ms. Earl
Have you
Sears.
finally
My
said
opponent
Ms. Earl Sears, you are
is
just
lying.
intruding on
Are
time
we in
here. We're
agreement
trying.
now? Are you
Ms.
going
Earl
to
Sears,
tell?
this is Ms. Spanberger's time. I have a follow-up question for Ms. Spanberger. Would you rescind the Youngkin administration policy requiring boys and girls to use bathrooms aligning with their biological sex? You have 30 seconds.
My priority would be to ensure that local communities, importantly parents and teachers
That's
and
a yes or
educators,
no.
are able to work together to meet the unique needs of each school and each community.
But girls
And
need
that is
privacy.
important. And I say that as a mother of 3 daughters in Virginia public schools.
Exactly.
And as someone who used to investigate crimes against children. The way that we keep our children safe is by ensuring they are safe in schools, which includes funding law enforcement and public safety
But Ms. Spanberger, the question was, would you rescind the Youngkin administration policy requiring boys and girls to use bathrooms aligning with their biological sex? You have 15 seconds to clarify that question.
Yes.
And my answer is that in each local community, decisions should be made between parents and educators and teachers in each community. It shouldn't be dictated by politicians.
Okay. So there you have it. She talked in circles. She sort of did not answer the question. I would say that she says my answer to that would be each local community decision should be made between parents and educators. So what she's going to say is that should be up to the locals and shouldn't be a state requirement, which it is currently because of Glenn Youngkin. And I wanted to provide some background. I said that it was ground zero. I couldn't remember what county. It was Loudoun County. And the father, he was actually pardoned by the governor, by the way, Governor Glenn Youngkin, after he was arrested at the school board meeting in 2021. After his daughter was sexually assaulted in a school bathroom by a transgender student. Okay, so he was pardoned by Glenn Youngkin, and that's what happened. So this is ground zero. This was this is what I'm convinced what got Glenn Youngkin elected. The promise of requiring students to go into bathrooms of their birth gender. Okay, so Winsome Earl Sears, like I said, just a fantastic candidate. And she's not mean, but she interrupts her and tries to impress her. And I like how she kind of turned it into a 2 against 1. She did that previously in the last clip. You can rewind the show where she and the moderator were pressing her to condemn Jay Jones in the text messages where he fantasized about killing a political opponent of his with a couple of bullets shooting him in the head. So she turned this debate last night, Winsome Earl Sears, into a 2 against 1. And she did it with this. And here's the beautiful move here by Winsome Sears. Hold on, let me actually pull this up. Sorry. I know. I need to be better. I'm a terrible show host. I need to get these things pulled up faster. All right, take a listen to this. This is Winsome Sears.
So we know that biological men are larger in strength than women. We understand this. This is biology. If you look at football teams, you can see the difference between males and females. This is not hard. And that's why I'm asking my opponent, if your little girl comes home and said she was forced to undress in a locker room with a biological boy, what would you say? She's crying. What would you say? Are you not going to answer?
Ms.
So we know that biological men are large.
She just stares into the ether there. That is what Spanberger did. She fumbled and dodged the question. It was a very direct question. Are you going to repeal this requirement by Glenn Youngkin? And she kind of talked around it, but her response tells me that she wants to repeal it and leave it up to the local school boards. And she just kind of stares into the ether when Sears asks her this question. And I don't know about you guys, but I think that she lost the debate. What do you think? Throw it in the comment section. For those of you who watched the debate, watch some of these clips, I think the needle is definitely towards Winsome Sears here. Okay, there's a direction, and I think that she's going to be the next governor of Virginia. So please let me know your thoughts in the comment section. We are going to take a brief little recess, and I'm going to get a drink of water, sip of coffee, then we're going to come back. Letitia James, New York Attorney General. Letitia James, she has been indicted on at least one count. I think there's a couple of counts, but I want to talk about this count specifically of alleged fraud. And she has become the second political figure in the span of just a few weeks to face prosecution. So she is facing prosecution. And this comes after, of course, Donald Trump publicly demanded that the Justice Department move now and charge people who have weaponized the government and went after him. And you're going to get the laugh out there screaming, oh, he's going after his political opponents and his enemies, which actually this is just more like revenge, honestly. But no, this has something totally separate to do with what she did to President Donald Trump. She actually allegedly committed fraud, and it has to deal with mortgage filings. So I'm going to break that down for you here next on Conservative Cat. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I'll be right back. Welcome back to Conservative Cat Clips, where we claw through the lies and we lay out the truth. No filter, no fluff. I'm your host, Kat, and we're tackling the abortion debacle today, but this time we're pulling back the curtain on abortion's ugly origin story. Let's talk about Margaret Sanger, founder of what would become Planned Parenthood. The left treats her like some sort of feminist hero, but they conveniently leave out where she was a eugenicist and she spoke at KKK rallies, and she wanted to, quote, weed out the unfit. Her words, not mine, folks. In a 1938 letter, Sanger wrote about her plans to target Black communities, and I quote, "We do not want the word to get out that we want to exterminate the Negro population." Does that sound like they're trying to hide something, doesn't it? Planned Parenthood was built on this ideology, and Sanger didn't want to empower women. She wanted to control population growth, particularly among minorities, the poor, and the disabled, anyone she and her elite pals deemed less desirable. That's who she wanted to weed out. And guess what? The legacy still haunts the abortion industry today. Don't believe me? Look at the numbers. Black women make up about 13% of the population, but they account for nearly 40% of all abortions. You think that's by accident? No, ma'am. That's what's called targeted marketing and deception. They're marketing abortion to Black women. So while the media glamorizes abortion as freedom, let's be real. It started with a woman who thought freedom meant eliminating the weak. And while the left tears down statues of long dead so-called racists, they keep handing out awards named after Margaret Sanger. Hypocrisy much? The left is tearing down these statues, but yet they're handing out awards named after Margaret Sanger. Now, I know some folks are going to say, well, that was a long time ago, Kat, sure. But Planned Parenthood is still the nation's largest abortion provider. They're still planting clinics in these low-income minority neighborhoods, and they're marketing abortions to minorities. And they were raking in $500 million of taxpayer dollars, by the way, every year. And just until recently, President Donald Trump signed this executive order to end the federal taxpayer dollars to fund and promote elective abortion. The order recognizes that for nearly 5 decades, Congress enacted a little something called the Hyde Amendment. It's a series of additional laws to protect taxpayers from being forced to pay for abortion. That's what the Hyde Amendment does. Contrary to this longstanding common sense policy, the previous administration, Joe Biden, they dedicated all kinds of federal funding to elective abortion and a wide variety of government programs. This isn't about women's health. It's about politics, power, and profit. The future, it's up to us. In a post-Roe world, gives us this chance to right historic wrongs. We need laws that protect the unborn, support women, and finally shut down the lie that abortion is some kind of virtue. This has been Conservative Cat Clips. I'm Kat, reminding you that the truth has claws and history doesn't lie. Margaret Sanger's past isn't just history, it's the foundation of a system that we are fighting today. Stand tall, speak out, and choose life. Hey, go ahead and smash that like button, share this out with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. So New York Attorney General Letitia James, see ya, bye. No, she got indicted for at least one count, and I think that there's 2 counts here, but I just want to talk about the one count today. We're going to dig deep into that, and tomorrow I might get to the other count. So at least one count of alleged fraud. this is the second James Comey, right? The first political figure who has been prosecuted since Donald Trump publicly demanded that the Justice Department move now and charge these people. So the contents of the indictment were not unsealed until late Thursday afternoon. I do want to go through one of the counts today. Okay, so U.S. Attorney of the Eastern District of Virginia, her name is Lindsay Halligan. Okay, she presented evidence to a federal grand jury Thursday seeking an indictment on charges of mortgage fraud, okay, against Letitia James. So it's in relation to these mortgage filings. Okay, that's where the fraud comes from. This alleged count of fraud. So a federal housing regulator, Bill Pult, referred James to the Justice Department in April, claiming that she falsified records to get a sweetheart deal, a sweetheart home loan for a Virginia property that she claimed was her principal residence in 2023, while starting her second term as New York top prosecutor, New York Attorney General. So CNN commentator Scott Jennings, he's also Salem Media radio show host. You guys know him, Scott Jennings. He predicted that Democrats are going to start immediately screaming about this. Pritzker, Donald Trump had made a Truth Social post about arresting him where really he should be arrested for aiding and abetting illegal immigrants here in the state of Illinois. But Pritzker said, come get me, right? And you've got J.B. Pritzker saying that, oh, he's going after his political opponents, yada, yada, yada. And this comes after, of course, James Comey, who was indicted recently. She's indicted now, and Trump's getting out on Truth Social. So the narrative here from the left is going to be that Donald Trump is going after his political enemies, which is rich because this is exactly what they did to President Donald Trump. Okay, Democrats are immediately going to start screaming about this and about the prosecution, but it's so ridiculous that they would scream about this because of their efforts against President Donald Trump. Take a listen here to Scott Jennings. Here we go.
If Democrats like Slotkin are going to come out today and whine about selective prosecutions over Tish James, her entire career is built on the selective prosecution of one man. Now, I also believe what Elliot said. There's a process here. Everybody gets their day in court. Obviously, a grand jury saw enough evidence to bring charges. We don't know what they are, but a grand jury looked at this and says, okay, there's something here. She gets to go to court just like Comey, just like anyone else. But to me, it's just not going to fly to boo-hoo over selective prosecutions on this particular person who promised in her campaigns, who went after him on things, as Jonah said, that had no business ever happening, if not but for the man's last name being Trump. So I'm not going to.
How is that not a two wrongs make a right argument?
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying she gets her day in court. I'm saying a grand jury saw enough evidence to bring charges, and I'm saying she gets to go to court and tell her side of the story, and then we'll see what happens. But I'm just arguing the political debating issue here. Democrats are going to say, this is the first time we've ever had somebody go down the road of selective prosecutions on her. Yeah. Give me a break.
Okay, so Letitia James, she is indicted. She was indicted for mortgage and bank fraud. Okay, and Comey, he was recently indicted in September for lying to Congress and obstructing a congressional investigation. Basically, he told Congress one thing about FBI leaks and then did another. Okay, so he said he didn't leak information to the media. Prosecutors say he did, and he's been charged for it. To make it very simple for you. But former FBI Director James Comey, yes, that James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James, they have been trying to take President Donald Trump down for years. Okay. He pleaded not guilty, James Comey, of course, and he says that it's all about politics and he's coming after me and he's coming after his political enemies. You made him an enemy of him. Okay. You made yourself an enemy of him. Okay. First of all. Second of all, these are things that you guys actually did. Are actually like being investigated for. Okay. These aren't things that are, completely fabricated. In New York, you've got Letitia James going after President Donald Trump because he had, obtained a loan for Mar-a-Lago. And she tried to go after him for that and said that he inflated the property value of Mar-a-Lago, which just isn't true. And the bank, there was no victim of the crime. Okay. That of the alleged crime that President Donald Trump committed, because the bank was like, he paid the loan back. We're all good. Everything's fine. What do you mean? And he didn't inflate. I mean, Mar-a-Lago is very, very valuable. So she went after him for that. She was indicted for mortgage and bank fraud. This is the woman who spent years suing Donald Trump for financial fraud, and now she's being accused of lying on her own loan paperwork. So here's the deal. The justice system in America has been playing favorites for years. They've been going after Republicans, and the media calls that defending democracy. And when Democrats finally get caught up in the same web, they call it political retaliation. Okay. If justice is real, it should apply to everybody. Okay. Everyone. It's supposed to apply to everyone. So if Comey lied, he should face the consequences. If Letitia committed fraud, so should she. There are no special rules for elites in blazers and pearls, okay? And what's wild is how far the narrative, or how fast the narrative flips, okay? So remember when Comey was, their hero for standing up to Donald Trump, and now he's under indictment. And remember when Letitia said, nobody's above the law. Well, apparently that includes her too. Okay, so the Bible in Luke 12:3 says this: "What you have said in the dark will be heard in the daylight." The truth always comes out, and when it does, it doesn't really care about party lines. Okay, so I'm going to get to this count before I get to the fraud and where it all kind of comes from for Letitia James. Here is a statement from the U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan, who sought the indictment. She says, "No one is above the law," using Letitia James against her. The charges, as alleged in this case, represent intentional criminal acts and tremendous breaches of public trust. And then she says, "The facts and the law in this case are clear. We will continue following them to ensure that justice is served." Beautiful, right? I mean, justice was served. I mean, they, convicted him on 34 felonies or whatever. Now it's time to face the music. Okay. James responded, and she said, "This is nothing more than a continuation of the president's desperate weaponization of our justice system." No, that's what you did. He's forcing federal law enforcement agencies to do his bidding, all because I did my job as a New York State Attorney General. These charges are baseless, she says, Letitia James, and the president's own public statements make it clear that his only goal is political retribution at any cost. The president's actions are a grave violation of constitutional order and have drawn sharp criticism from members of both parties. If convicted on both counts, James is going to face 60 years or possibly a fine of $2 million. So here's the count, and I'm going to describe what exactly happened. Or allegedly happened. Okay. Like I said, allegedly. And justice needs to be sought. So she bought a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom home in Virginia in August of 2020, and it was worth roughly $137,000. Okay. And most of which was financed with a $109,000 loan that was actually prohibited from being used as a rental property investment. Okay, so she obtained the loan for this property, allegedly, under the guise that this was going to be a primary residence. Okay, the loan was not for a investment property. Okay, so the loan was prohibited allegedly from being used towards a rental investment property, prosecutors allege. Okay. And that allowed her to obtain favorable loan terms, not available for investment properties. Okay. So that's where the issue is here, the rub. Okay. So she got this nice loan, the $109,000 loan. And that loan, the requirements of that loan is, hey, we're going to give you this loan, but you cannot use it for rental investment. Okay, this is what the prosecutors say the loan was all about. And rental investment loan wouldn't have been as favorable. Okay. So this allowed her to obtain a favorable loan, not available for investment properties. The prosecutors noted in a 5-page filing, and she actually saved approximately $18,933 over the life of the loan. Had she had gone and got, a loan for, an investment property, which they're alleging that she, is using this for an investment property and it's not actually her primary residence, right? Had she done it the right way, she wouldn't have saved if she wouldn't have had this extra $18,000. Okay. I'm just telling you the facts of what we've got from the prosecutors and what they filed. Okay. So a New York Post reporter actually visited this home in Virginia in April of this year. And neighbors have said that Letitia has never been at the property. Okay. And then also, her income tax forms designate the home as a rental that brought in thousands of dollars in additional income. So are you starting to see the problem here and what this is all about? So the Virginia property records show, the Norfolk, Virginia property records show, were reviewed by the New York Post, and they show that James had granted power of attorney to her niece, Seamus Thompson Hairston, on August 17th of 2023, authorizing the purchase of the Virginia property, for which they secured a $219,780 mortgage. Okay, so this is the crux. I mean, there's mortgage filings and, rental investment property. Is this a rental, or did you get the loan for a rental property, or is this your primary residence? You got a loan for a primary residence, not a rental investment property, and then you wound up saving a bunch of money because, you got a sweetheart loan deal. That's what this is all about. So, the facts are the facts. And I hope that it all comes out, in the wash, and we'll have to see if the truth comes out. I know the truth will, because Luke 12:3 says, what you have said in the dark will be heard in the daylight. So the takeaway is simple here. If you spend your career using law as a political weapon, which Letitia James has done against President Donald Trump, one day it's going to swing back and hit you in the face. And the swamp always eats its own. And in the end, justice, real justice, will come to light. So this has been the Conservative Cat Show. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. We're going to be right back. I'm going to take a quick break, but we're going to talk about the Gaza deal because President Donald Trump did it. Remember when they were screaming, free Palestine, free Palestine, free Palestine. Donald Trump actually managed to pull that off and did something pretty amazing. He has a deal out there finally with Gaza, and he's going to bring the hostages home on Monday. Okay, this war has been going on for 2 years. So we're anticipating the hostages to come home on Monday, and the first phase of this deal was signed in Israel. So we're going to chat about J.D. Vance praising Donald Trump for negotiating this deal, and he explained how Trump was uniquely qualified to bring about this deal and bring this deal together. And J.D. Vance kind of makes a joke here. And I'm going to play that here on the other side. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends.
Sometimes God stops you cold, not with a whisper, with a punch to the soul. Saul wasn't looking for Jesus. He was hunting Christians. He had power, position, and a mission. Then God knocked him to the dirt, a light from heaven, a voice that knew his name. Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? That moment wasn't soft. It wasn't sweet. It was a spiritual ambush. God still works like that. He steps into your mess, interrupts your pride, confronts the man you've become when you're wandered too far. Maybe you're building your own kingdom. Maybe your fists are up, fighting battles God never called you to. Or maybe you're just running hard in the wrong direction. But then comes the voice, clear, heavy, holy. Why are you persecuting me? Jesus doesn't want your behavior fixed. He wants your heart surrendered. Saul didn't get a lecture. He got a mission. Get up, go to the city. You'll be told what to do. That's the way of real manhood in the kingdom. Surrender first, then orders. You don't need every answer right now. You need to obey the voice. Follow the light. Rise up off the dirt and walk the road God lays out it for you. Some roads break you to rebuild you, and that's exactly what Jesus wants. You want to train like a warrior? You need fuel like one. Patriot Pump is clean, powerful pre-workout that won't let you quit halfway. Just like the mission God gives you, it's not about the hype. It's about the grit. Fuel up, lock in, get after it.
Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. I so do appreciate you folks being here, especially Robert. First time here, great show. Not many speaking this truth. I appreciate it. Subscribe. Tell your friends. The Conservative Cat Show. This is where common sense isn't extinct. And we want to talk about what happened on the world stage recently because so this is truly historic. Something happened that is just truly historic, and that's all I can really say about it. Is just a historic moment. President Donald J. Trump has done what 2 years of global hand-wringing, UN speeches, virtue signaling couldn't do. He brokered peace in Gaza and got the hostages home. They're going to come home on Monday. That's right. After 2 long, painful years, the first phase of this new Gaza deal was signed in Israel, and the hostages are set to be free. Now, this isn't your typical photo op diplomacy where everyone smiles for the camera and then they go back fighting next week. Okay. This is the Donald Trump way, results, not rhetoric. Okay. So there was a cabinet meeting yesterday, and Vice President J.D. Vance gave Trump and his team full credit for the deal, and he nailed exactly why Trump pulled this off and how every other president failed to do this. Why President Joe Biden failed to do this. Okay, it's because he did something different. You know, every administration really before Trump has followed the same tired playbook, and we're always in these forever wars and endless talks and these big promises and zero accountability. But Donald Trump, he treated this like a business deal. He was tough, direct, and the deal is centered on peace through strength. And Vance hit one out of the park with this line. He says, quote, you know, Trump knew one of the most famous Israelis, and he said, quote, and one of the most famous Palestinians in the world, Chuck Schumer. He makes a quick little joke here. I'm going to play it. Here we go. Take a listen.
Mr. President, first of all, congratulations on yesterday. It was a big day to Marco, to Susie, to the entire team, but in particular, viewing it from this perspective where for months, the fake news media attacked you, attacked the entire team, attacked your approach. You know, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing again and again, expecting a different result. The reason we're here is because the president actually charted a different course with a different team. He vested a lot of authority in Steve Witkoff in particular, and that's why we're here. It's because you did something different, and I think it's important to recognize that. I also think the president, you know, Marco mentioned the president's personal touch being a big part of this. The one thing I would say is obviously the president of the United States, a New York real estate billionaire, one of the most famous New Yorkers in the world, has a lot of interaction with a lot of people who are very pro-Israel. I think that was an important set of experiences and life experiences that he brought to the table. He also, of course, knew one of the most famous Palestinians in the world, Chuck Schumer. And I think without that background of knowledge, it would have been impossible to get us to this. Second thing I would say, just on Chuck Schumer, the president mentioned this, that Chuck Schumer said this has been very good for us this morning about the shutdown. One of the things that we talked about before all the media came in, and that all of us are going to work on for the rest of the day, we've been working on for days, is how to make the shutdown as painless as possible on the American people. So while Chuck Schumer brags about this being good, and I think the president is right, it's not good for him politically as much as he might think that it is. It's causing real consequences for the American people. There's a low-income food program, the WIC program, that my mom actually used when I was a baby. That program is about to be underfunded and is about to get cut off because Chuck Schumer won't open the government. We have troops. Secretary of War mentioned how well we're doing on recruitment. We're trying to figure out how to pay our troops because Chuck Schumer is shutting down the U.S. government. There are veterans benefits that are going to suffer. There are Americans that are going to suffer because Chuck Schumer refuses to do his job. So while we're all celebrating this incredible success that we've had on the world stage, the country could be doing so much better if Chuck Schumer did his job and opened the government. Every single Republican, except for Rand Paul, has voted to open the government. A few moderate Democrats, to their credit, have voted with us to open the government. We just need 5 more Democrats to come to their senses and let the people's government serve the American people. I hope that they'll do that.
Hey, good morning. Yes, so I wanted to play that in its entirety. He hit one out of the park with this line. He goes, you know, Trump knew a lot of famous Israelis, you know, his time in New York, knew some New Yorkers, knew some Israelis. And, you know, that was something unique that he brought to the deal. And it was only Donald Trump who could have gotten this Gaza deal done, this peace deal. But he also knew one of the famous Palestinians in the world, one of the most famous, Chuck Schumer. So Chuck Schumer, he is, you know, now leading this Democrat shutdown theater, right? And I'm not too upset about the government shutdown now that it's gone on for a little longer. You are going to start to see perhaps some delays, things like the WIC program, the Women and Infant Children. It's a government initiative to provide nutrition, supplement nutrition program. It's like a SNAP program for women and children. And JD Vance brought that up there. You are going to start to see some delays in programs that people actually utilize now that it's gone on a little bit longer. We are also seeing, you know, and he thinks that it's good for him politically, this government shutdown, Chuck Schumer. It's not, because the government funds all of this nonsense, you know, $3 billion to male prostitutes in Haiti to learn how to cook pastries. Okay. You think I'm joking. I'm not. All of that's kind of coming and bubbling to the surface. And people are starting to realize, oh, well, there's a lot of things that we could cut. And once the government comes back and, Congress funds the government. Once that happens, we're going to have to do some major cuts, and Donald Trump has talked about Project 2025, which would, and he's worked with Russ Vought. Hey, what are some of these reduction in force plans? What would those look like once Congress comes back and funds the government? What can we cut? Because all of this is sort of bubbled to the surface through the shutdown. So it's not really good for Chuck Schumer politically, although he'll say it is. And he's out there bragging and he says, oh, it gets better for us every single day. Better for who, Chuck? Not the single mom at this point who's depending on that WIC program. Not our troops, waiting for their paychecks, our ICE agents. They're doing all of this without pay. They're probably going to get back pay, so don't worry. But Trump's team actually found a way, by the way, to creatively fix this issue with WIC. So he's using tariff revenue to fund the women and children, program. So he's funding it even through a shutdown. And that is called leadership. That is called problem solving. That is called America First. So Schumer, he can pander to the far left wing of his party, the AOCs. We've talked about that before, that this shutdown is probably actually the AOCs. They are more loyal to their far base. Really, it's not even their base here in America. It is the nonprofit organizations. They're loyal to those nonprofit organizations that are funded by left-wing billionaires. And they want to funnel tax dollars into these nonprofit organizations. And then in turn, those nonprofit organizations will funnel the money back to them. Really, it's the gravy train is drying up for them. It's not good for them, the government shutdown. But he's trying to save his political skin here. He's playing both sides of the Gaza issue and losing the middle in the process. So let's call this what it is. The Democrats are so obsessed with power that they'd rather see the government come to a grinding halt than to give Trump a win and to get this continuing resolution passed, this funding bill passed, okay? But guess what? Trump has already won. The hostages are coming home. There's going to be peace in the Middle East. There's programs that are still being funded even through the shutdown. And the American people are watching and they're looking at Donald Trump and they're saying, hey, he's actually leading. So when Chuck is out there saying, oh, it gets better for us every single day. Okay, I don't see how, but Trump is proving you wrong. It's not looking good for you, Chuck, because every day he's beating you. Okay, he's beating your politics. He's beating your pride. And this has been the Conservative Cat Show. I think that's going to do it for us today. Bring back necessary and needed. Yes. So we need necessary and needed programs. The WIC one, arguably necessary, needed for women and children. You can, say that program's needed. And we need to stop with the funding the non-government organizations and their various mission trips, or their various missions, and funding the transgenders, learning how to do dance class in Pakistan or something like that. Like, none of that. We need to get back to necessary and needed. It's very creative what Donald Trump has done with this tariff revenue to fund programs that Americans use. The Women and Children program, he's found a creative way to fund that despite the government being shut down. And that's what real leadership looks like. And the American people are watching. They're looking at Chuck Schumer and he's, out there bragging, oh, this is awesome. This government shutdown is awesome for us politically, which it's not. It's actually awesome for Republicans politically, because we're going to be able to justify our reduction in force plans once Congress actually fully funds the government again. We'll get to cut things once we come back, because all of that nastiness is coming to the surface. So, yeah, Trump is beating you. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning, bright and early, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, visit patriotpumpenergy.com, get your bottle of premium pre-workout with promo code conservative cap. Bye-bye. Love you so much.